Okay, the clock strikes 1 o'clock. Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
And we are about to begin.
Yeah.
1 second. Okay, so we're learning today, we're continuing the halachot around carrying in the public domain on Shabbos and the prohibitions of it. But today we're going to be learning, as you may have noticed from the promo that I sent out, particularly carrying in regards to things that we hold, things that we wear, and the things that we wear are not, so to speak, called carried. Okay. So sorry, let's just go up here. So just to give you a little bit of context, you're not allowed to carry anything in the public domain. What are you allowed to wear? There's two types of things you can wear. Derech malbush, okay, which is an item of a garment, an item of clothing, if it's a normal thing to wear, or you're also allowed to wear on Shabbos a tachshit, which usually is translated as jewelry, but as we'll see, should be more broadly translated in Hilchos Shabbos. Tachshit is an accessory. But it's a lot of very precise halachas, and it's quite a lot to carry, and I do want to finish by 1:30, so let's go right in. Parakites Aleph, Kol Klei Milchama, we may not go out wearing any weaponry on the Shabbos. The following rules apply when one should go out, should one go out wearing weaponry. If they are objects that are worn as garments, examples given, a coat of mail, a helmet, or iron boots, one is not liable. Okay, meaning you shouldn't wear them on Shabbos. If everyone goes out carrying articles that are not worn as garments, in other words, as example given, a spear, a sword, a bow, a round shield, or a triangular shield, he is liable. Again, just to point out the difference in the terminology. It's not between whether you're permitted or not permitted. They're both prohibited, but only for one are you held liable for it. But neither of them are actually allowed. Base. You may not go out wearing a sandal studded with nails to fasten it. Even on festivals, the sages decreed that we should not go out wearing such sandals. It is, however, permitted to go out wearing a belt with pieces of gold and silver embedded into it as kings wear, for this is a piece of jewelry. Okay, now we're coming into the other item, which is a tachshit. It is permitted to wear all jewelry. This license is granted provided the belt does not hang loosely, lest it fall in the public domain and one go and bring it. Okay, so even though there's nothing to be gained by the gold and silver, you still were allowed to wear it. And it's interesting, the prohibition that he mentions here about these nails. Why is it prohibited? The ones that have the what do you call them? Not studs, the cleats, I guess you could say, almost like the soccer players wear on their sneakers. Why are these nails on them? Why are they prohibited? It's actually it's for the memory that it would awaken. Very sadly, that in the days when Torah and learning and davening were prohibited, when they would hear the people coming, everybody would run away, and people got crushed in the running away from the Roman soldiers or others, people got crushed by these sandals. People were killed by it, and they didn't want to awaken the memories. So there's a discussion between the poskim as to whether or not that still applies today, this prohibition on the metal sandals. And the opinion there is that it is. One opinion is brought down. Okay. If you have any questions, you can write in the chat or unmute yourself. I think you're able to unmute. Gimel, tabas she'eshel ha'chesim, a ring that has a seal is considered to be a piece of jewelry. It is a tachshit for a man, but not for a woman. A wheel with a ring with a seal on it. A ring without a seal, by contrast, is considered to be a piece of jewelry for a woman, but not for a man. Accordingly, a woman who goes out wearing a ring that has a seal, a man who goes out wearing a ring without a seal are liable. Why are they liable? They didn't transfer them in an ordinary manner. Okay, so just to remember, there's two issues here. There's liability and prohibition. Prohibition is anything which is not allowed, midrabanan even. Liability is that you would even be liable for punishment midiraisa. Now, in order to be liable for punishment, you need to be wearing it b'derech levush. Okay, so you need to be carrying it in a normal form of carrying. Meaning, why are you being punished, so to speak? Well, why does Torah say I'm liable for punishment? Because I carried it. In order to do that, it can be not only something which isn't normal to wear, but I also have to be carrying it in a manner that is considered a normal form of carrying. So the question today is whether or not the question that Rambam is addressing now is wearing a ring is not a normal way of transferring something. Okay, if the best man brings the ring that the chassan is about to use to marry his wife, if he comes up to the chuppah wearing it, he'll probably lose his friendship, because that's not how you carry a ring. Okay, that's the question that Rambam asks. Why are they liable? They didn't transfer them in an ordinary manner. In other words, it's not an ordinary practice for a man to wear a ring on his finger that is not appropriate for him, nor for a woman to wear a ring on her finger that is not appropriate for her. In other words, nobody transfers jewelry by wearing it. You put it in your pocket, you hold it in your hand. Nevertheless, the Rambam says, no, there are exceptions. There are times when a man gives his ring to his wife to hide at home, and she places it on her finger while she is walking. Similarly, there are times when a woman gives her ring to her husband to take to a jeweler to fix, and he places it on his finger while he's walking to the jeweler's store. Therefore, although the rings are not appropriate for the individuals mentioned above, because they do occasionally wear such rings, they are considered to have transferred them in an ordinary manner, and accordingly, they are liable. Although a ring that does not have a seal is considered to be a piece of jewelry for a woman should not go out wearing such a ring lest she take it off in the public domain and show it to her friends, as women often do. If, however, she went out wearing such a ring, she is not liable. A man, by contrast, may go out wearing a ring that has a seal for it is considered to be a piece of jewelry for him, but it is not usual for practice for a man to show off his jewelry to others. It has nevertheless become accepted practice for people to go out without wearing any rings at all. Now, the obvious question that many of you are asking me now, without vocalizing it, but I can sense the question coming, is, does this apply today? Is it common practice for a man to wear a ring? Is it common practice for a woman to wear jewelry on Shabbos and not Is it common practice for a woman to wear jewelry on Shabbos, even though the Rambam says that the custom is not? So I should say that in the Ashkenazi community, although what the Rambam's writing here is clearly what the Gemara writes. Across the board, but today Shulchan Aruch rules, the Ramah and the Taisvis and the Go'ainim ruled that people do wear it for a number of reasons. First of all, a public domain doesn't exist today, according to most Ashkenazi. Fifth Avenue in Manhattan or Champs-Élysées in Paris, but most public domains don't have 600,000 people. The other issue is that jewelry has become much more common. So this idea of women taking off their rings and showing it in public is not a common concern. That said, I would suggest that you discuss it with your local halachic authority. I'm here to teach Rambam, not to give you final halachic rulings. So how this applies today, discuss it with your rabbi, but just to say that everybody, what your rabbi will definitely say is that there is room for leniency in that sense. Hey, Isha Shiatsu Machat Nekuva Chayeves. A woman who goes out wearing a pin with an eye is liable, while a man is not liable. A man who goes out wearing a pin without an eye is liable, while a woman is not liable, for this is considered to be a piece of jewelry for her. She is prohibited against wearing it only because of the decree, lest she take it off and show it to her friends. Again, the commentaries on the Rambam write, and halachic authorities today formalize that the Rambam is talking there what the common practice was. Today, jewelry is the socioeconomic conditions of the Jewish community are such that it is not considered unique for someone to be wearing jewelry, and therefore the application is different. The following general principles apply. Whenever a person goes out wearing an item that is considered to be the jewelry for him, and it is not worn as a garment, he is liable if he transfers it in an ordinary manner. Meaning, a tachshit you can wear as long as you wear it b'derech tachshit. Okay, and the same is true with the lavush. Whenever a man goes out wearing a piece of jewelry that hangs loosely and could easily fall and thus cause him to bring it through the public domain, and similarly, whenever a woman goes out wearing a piece of jewelry that she is likely to take off and show it to her friends, they are not liable. Okay, again, so it wouldn't be permitted. So that's another reason why we would prohibit it, is if it's common for a person to take it off. So even though it's prohibited, it's still not liable. Whenever adornment, whenever an adornment, whenever an adornment that is not likely to fall, nor is it likely to be shown to others, a woman is permitted to go out wearing it. Therefore, she may go out wearing a bracelet that is placed on the forearm or a garter that is placed on the thigh if it clings tightly to the flesh and will not slip off. These rules apply in all other similar situations. So basically what we need in order for something to be permitted is, number one, in order for it to be biblically permitted, it has to be either a levush, derech malbush, a garment, or a tachshit, jewelry, or more broadly, accessory. That's the first condition, so that it's not a biblical prohibition. And number two, in order for it to be permitted, meaning there isn't the gzeir of the chacham, the decree of the sages that prohibits it, it has to be something where there isn't a concern that you'll take it off. Okay? Then, once those two or three conditions are met, you then have to wear it derech malbush. You have to wear it in the normal way and not in a way of transfer. As you can imagine, all these three questions will come into play around our discussion surrounding the mask, which we'll get to soon. Vav, a woman should not go out with woolen strands, linen strands, or straps attached to her head, lest she remove them when she immerses herself and carry them in the public domain. She should not go out wearing a frontlet on her forehead, nor with bangles of gold that hang from the frontlet on her cheeks if they're not sewn together, nor may she go out wearing a crown of gold on her head, nor with the ankle chains worn by maidens, so they will not take long strides and thus destroy the signs of their virginity. It is forbidden to go out wearing any of these articles lest they fall and one carry them by hand. Now, most of this are not things that are relevant in terms of items of clothing that are worn today, but what is very important is this point here. It is forbidden to go out wearing any of these articles lest they fall and one carry them by hand. There is a debate around unnecessary sunglasses. Why? Because sunglasses people often take off if they're not prescription. Okay, are you allowed to wear your sunglasses on top of your head like that? And those are similar questions, and all again coming down to that point of the halacha there. A woman shouldn't go out wearing a necklace, a rosary, a flask of perfume attached to her forearm, a small round pouch in which balsam oil is placed, referred to as a koshelet. These are accessories which are not common to wear, nor meaning they're common to wear, but we'll get to us in a reason why they're prohibited. Nor should she wear a wig that will give her the appearance that she has a fillet of hair, nor a woolen pad that goes around her face, nor a false tooth, nor a golden crown that she places over a black tooth or a blemish that she has on her teeth. She may go out with a silver tooth because this is not obvious. All these prohibitions were instituted lest the article fall and the woman carry it in her hand, or lest she remove it and show it to a friend. Okay, so there we're obviously getting a lot more of information around what might inform our discussion. I should point out, oh, sorry, there's a question in the chat. What about watches which we normally wear daily, also smartwatches? I should play it safe and say, ask your rabbi. It is a very, not difficult question. The answer is pretty clear. A woman is definitely allowed to wear a watch on Shabbos because it's considered strictly a piece of jewelry. Question is, what about a man? And particularly as a smartwatch. A smartwatch is obviously a much more contemporary halacha. I'll give you the ruling that I would tell someone on Shabbos. Absolutely forbidden. For the very simple reason that you bought it because, I don't mean you, I don't mean the questioner, I mean you as the, not Kent, I mean the questioner in my shul. You bought it because you're addicted. What's that?
I don't have one.
Oh, okay, good. I didn't think so. That's why I was afraid to answer.
No,
you as the purchaser, you bought the smartwatch. What's that?
I knew it was controversial. That's why I asked the question.
Okay, you bought the smartwatch because you're addicted to it. Steve Jobs owns your life as it is 6 days a week. There's no, meaning anyone who has the self-discipline to say, Rabbi, I promise you I'll wear it for 24 hours and won't touch it, I'll say you're a liar. Why? Because if you had that much self-discipline, you wouldn't have bought the watch in the first place. And the reason why you bought it is because you're so connected to it. And so if you're so connected to it that you have to throw out a few extra thousand rand in order to own the smartwatch, I don't believe, and I wouldn't give any halachic permission to say that you then therefore be allowed to do it. But again, it should be discussed privately. The more, I would say, controversial issue is actually around men wearing watches. In particular, in terms of Shulchan Aruch Harav and what the rules in the Siddur as well. The prevalent, and I'll say prevalent, but not entirely, the prevalent Chabad accepted psak is that men don't wear watches. That said, there is a strong difference of opinion around it. And many believe that for a man, even a broken watch would be considered a form of tachshit for a man as well. But yeah, I would say go definitely for a final ruling, consult with your halachic authority. Okay. If it's forbidden to go into the public domain, you can't even go into a chatzar that has no erev, a courtyard. An exception is made with regard to a face pad and a wig. By the way, just to point out, a face pad here is not relevant to our discussion. Shulchan Aruch says very clearly you're not allowed to wear a mask. So why is it even a question? The mask that Shulchan Aruch talks about when it says it's absolutely prohibited, it is a form of a cosmetic mask, which people would wear to either dress up or hide themselves, etc. And that's what. But we'll get to the medical mask, the COVID mask soon. Permission was granted to God wearing them to a quarter where there's no eruv, so that woman would not appear unattractive to her husband. A woman that goes there carrying an empty flask with no perfume is liable. Okay, just to talk here, what does he mean here by an eruv? Is different to the eruv that we have in around Sea Point or many neighborhoods in Johannesburg. In other words, a hotel needs an eruv. What do you mean? It's enclosed. But what's referred to as an eruv chatzeres, meaning once it's closed, there's another element to the eruv of Sea Point, and that is to carry from one private domain into another private domain, even if you're not going into a public or semi-public domain. And therefore, people that own a courtyard, for example, if there's 4 houses that open into a courtyard, you're not allowed to carry into the courtyard unless they have a shared meal. Okay, now that can be a matzah, a box of matzah that's put aside for 6 months as the shared meal, but that permits carrying. And if there's no eruv, you're not allowed to carry, and that's what the Rambam is referring to, those few halachas. Test, a woman may go out wearing strands of hair that are attached to her head. Water passes through them, and they are therefore not considered to be interposing substance were she to immerse herself. Consequently, she will not remove them. Hence, there is no necessity to prohibit wearing them unless you remove them and carry them into the public domain. This applies regardless of whether the strands of hair were taken from the woman's own tresses, those of another woman, or from an animal. An elderly woman should not, however, go out wearing strands of hair from a young woman, for they are becoming to her, and we feel that she might remove them and show them to a friend. A young woman, by contrast, may go out wearing strands of hair from an elderly woman. Any woven hair covering may be worn. Just to point out that Rebbe, in the early days, did I see Rabbi Popek here? So perhaps Rabbi Popek can tell us of his childhood, if he remembers weddings where the Rebbe officiated. Did you? Were you ever at a wedding where the Rebbe officiated?
No.
Okay, yeah, well, it stopped in those early years. But in the 90s, before the Rebbe became Rebbe, and one of the conditions that he would make was that the Rebbe was very strong about a woman wearing a sheitel. Why a sheitel? He said because other head coverings we naturally can push back or forward, and therefore with a sheitel, a woman feels more comfortable wearing it as it is, and there isn't a concern of removing it. A woman may go wearing strands tied around her neck because it doesn't tie them tightly, and they are therefore not considered to be an interposing substance with regard to which will emerge. And if, however, they are colored, she may not go out wearing them lest she show them to a friend. A woman may go out wearing a golden diadem since these are worn only by dignified women who are not accustomed to removing their jewelry and showing them to their friends. Meaning, and that's where all women are considered to be today, this status, meaning every woman has jewelry today. A woman may also go out wearing a frontlet on her forehead with bangles of gold that hang from the frontlet, provided they are sewn into her head covering so that they do not fall. The same applies in other similar situations. In other words, in terms of the concern of what if, there are 2 what ifs. What if you may take it off, or what if it'll fall off? Those are the 2 extra concerns. A woman may go out with wadding in her ear, provided it is attached to her ear with wadding in her sandal, providing it is attached to her sandal with wadding for her menstrual discharge, even though it is not attached. This latter applies even if it has a handle, since it is repulsive, even if it falls, she would not carry it. Number 12, she may go with pepper or grain of salt or any other substance that is placed in her mouth to prevent bad breath. She should not, however, place these substances in her mouth on the Shabbos itself. A woman may go out wearing slivers of wood in their ears or with bells on their necks or garments. and with a cloak fastened with a makeshift button. I apologize for the speed. Indeed, a woman may fasten her cloak in this manner using a stone or a nut on the Shabbos and go out, provided she does not use this leniency as a ruse and use a nut for this purpose in order to bring it to her young son. Meaning, don't play games. But she can use it. Similarly, she should not fasten her cloak in this manner using a coin. It is forbidden to carry it. If her cloak was fastened using a coin, she may go wearing it. Okay, this is a very critical halacha which many of us ignore today. I mean, we're not not aware of. If her cloak was fastened using a coin, she may go out wearing it. In other words, the whole heter for a Shabbos for a Shabbos belt, for those who want to use a belt to wear a key to get into the house on Shabbos, is if the key is a part of the belt. And therefore, number one, what is absolutely not permitted on Shabbos, which I've seen many people wearing, is a Shabbos belt around your waist with a ring of keys on it. Out. That's called carrying keys. It's definitely prohibited and possibly even liable for punishment. What is permitted is if the ring, if the key itself is a part of the ring. In other words, you have two sides of the belt coming into the key. But more than that, what really should be done, and here is already room for leniency if it's not done, possibly, is that the key should have two holes so that the two ends of the belt aren't touching each other independently. In other words, the key is playing a critical role in the completion of the belt. Okay, we're almost at 1:30. I'm going to continue giving the share until we finish the chapter, but I know some of you plan only to be here from 1 to 1:30. So obviously you can get the text of today's halacha if you want to learn it later at chabad.org/daily study. Just to address the issue that I raised in the context, what about wearing a mask today? So, does anybody want to offer a view, a thought? Is it permitted or not, and why?
Pikuach nefesh.
Pikuach nefesh. Okay. So, to save a life, anything is permitted. So, what that would say is, even if it's absolutely prohibited, you'd be allowed to wear it to save a life. The reality is, whether COVID is life-threatening is a medical issue. Okay, once medicine has ruled that COVID is life-threatening, there's no halachic input there. However, how to apply the principle of pikuach nefesh is complex. Okay, so if I'm sitting at home alone and I have a tendency that every 20 minutes I sanitize. Okay, I haven't been out of the house for a month, but I sanitize every 20 minutes. Okay, I'm a bit OCD. It's just I do it over the top. It makes no sense. There's no doctor tells me I have to do it, but I do it. Why am I doing it? Because now, in the middle of Shabbos, I run out of sanitizer. Can I get into my car and drive to the shops and buy a new sanitizer because it's pikuach nefesh? No. Why? Because the level of sakanot nefashot, the level of danger is so minimal that I can't apply it and therefore go drive on Shabbos to buy new sanitizer. In other words, yes, the prevention we need to take is pikuach nefesh, but then I don't have to break Shabbos, so stay home. Meaning, there's no requirement for me, no doctor would tell me that I have to go to shul. So if I don't have to go to shul, why am I breaking Shabbos? So while it's true that yes, you must wear a mask on Shabbos, you don't have to go to shul. So the question, if I can then now extend the question a little bit, is there a halachically permissible way to wear the mask on Shabbos, based on what we learned so far? Ken, are you in the office or at home?
I'm at home.
You're at home. Okay, so Ken's screen is already the first proof that a mask would be derech malbush. You're sitting at home and you're wearing a mask. Okay? Right? Now, you're wearing it now up and down until on your chin. So there's no question that to wear a mask when you're going in the street is permitted, because today it's considered derech malbush and derech tachshit. Okay? It carries both of those. But what are the two questions? Number one, you may take it off. Number two, it may fall off. I personally have never had a mask fall off. Have you? Okay, so there's no concern of it falling off. What about taking it off? I may take it off and carry it. Again, I very rarely do that. And I didn't put any of these questions into the promo. The question is, am I allowed to walk to shul wearing my mask the way Kent is wearing it now? In other words, that might be considered carrying in order that I should have the mask ready for me when I get to shul. And so what I'll say is that therefore, no matter what your rabbi will tell you, I think your rabbi will agree that you should actually wear the mask when you're walking to shul on Shabbos, not beneath the chin. There are poskim today who say that you're not allowed to wear it. However, I should point out that Rav Asher Weiss does rule in his in the publication that he put out around the laws of Corona. He says that there's reason to believe that even today, like this, it could be considered derech malbush, wearing it beneath your chin. So if you're walking in the street and there's no one around and you're not obligated to wear it by law, and it's more comfortable, then it could. There is room for leniency. But definitely, ideally, you should wear it up above your face. Okay, a man may go out to the public domain with a sliver of wood in his teeth or in his sandal. If however it falls, he should not put it back. He may go out with wadding or a sponge over a wound, provided he doesn't wind a cord or a string over them. Just by the way, in terms of the contemporary poskim, they do raise this issue of wearing something over a wound. Because he considers the cord or the string as important, and they do not assist the healing of the wound. You may go with a garlic peel, onion peel, and a wound, and with a bandage on a wound. You may open and close the bandage on Shabbos. You may go with a compress, a plaster, or dressing on a wound. Similarly, you may go with a cell on a foot sore, a locust's egg, a fox tooth, a nail from gallows, and other entities that is hung in a person's body to bring a cure, provided that physicians say it is effective. Now, just to point out, Kent, in terms of the comment that I made, what you said about pikuach nefesh, what I mean when I say that the physicians say that it's effective is not that because the physicians say it's effective, therefore it's allowed because of pikuach nefesh. But that because the physicians say it helps, therefore it's considered a normal way of wearing even derech levush. What's interesting is that the examples that he gives is not the big question that all the Mefarshim ask on the Rambam here is, why does he say give these examples of things that don't seem to be medical? The fox's tooth is not medical. It seems more to just, it's a good luck charm. And in fact, the Rambam is the one who writes so strongly against using good luck charms. And seemingly the reason would be because it's a common practice. Meaning not that the Rambam is allowing it from a medical perspective, but because it would be considered common practice. Women go out with a tukuma stone, or the weighted tukuma stone, which was weighed and carried, with the intent that it serve as a remedy. This was, again, this applies not only to pregnant women, but to all women as a safeguard, lest they become pregnant and miscarry. One may go out wearing an amulet. You can go, okay, these good luck charms. Okay, the big question that the Mefarshim ask is that Rambam would have been the one to prohibit wearing this even during the week, let alone on Shabbos. What is an amulet that has proven its efficiency? An amulet that has cured 3 individuals, repaired 1 individual, cured 3 people with other amulets. If a person goes out wearing an amulet that has not proven its efficiency, he is not liable. He's carried out as a garment. Similarly, a person who goes out wearing tefillin is not liable. Tesvav. Mishesh baragli maka yesi besanda. A person who has a wound on his foot may go out wearing a sandal on his healthy foot. If he doesn't have a wound on his foot, he may not go out wearing a single sandal. A child should not go out wearing the sandals of an adult. He may, however, go out wearing the cloak of an adult. A woman should not go out on Shabbos wearing a loose-fitting sandal, nor wearing a new sandal that she did not wear even for a short period of time before the commencement of Shabbos. A one-legged man may not go out wearing his wooden leg. We may not go out wearing wooden shoes because it's not ordinary practice to wear them. If, however, one goes out wearing them, he is not liable. A man will go out wearing tufts of flax or a woolen wig worn by men with sores on their heads. When does this apply? When he carried them, or he wound them, or he went out wearing them at least momentarily before the commencement of Shabbos. If, however, he did not perform a deed that indicates his desire to use these articles, nor did he go out wearing them before the Shabbos, it is forbidden for him to go out wearing them, meaning you cannot change. This applies not only to the halachas of carrying from the inside to the outside, outside to the inside, meaning not only in terms of haitzah, but also in terms of the laws of muktzah, even though the rabbinic prohibition, you cannot change the status of something once Shabbos comes in. If you want to use a stone from your front yard as a door stopper to hold the front door open, you can only touch that stone if it's been used for that purpose before Shabbos, not on Shabbos itself. We may go out. Yetzin b'sak ova. A person go out with a coarse sackcloth, a tent cloth, a thick wooden blanket, or a coarse wrap as protection against rain. We may not, however, go out wearing, a chest, a container, or a mat as protection against the rain. Again, because they're not made for that. When a pillow and blanket are soft and thin as garments, or one may go out wearing them as a wrap on one's head on Shabbos. When they are firm, they are considered to be burdens, and it is forbidden. In other words, they're not comfortable enough to be considered designated for that. Yudches, Yoitzin bezegen harugim v'gadim. You go out with bells woven into our clothes. A servant may go out wearing a clay seal around his neck, but not with a metal seal, lest it fall and he carry it. The following rules apply when a person wraps himself in a talis and folds it, either holding the folds in his hand or placing them on his shoulder. If his intent is that the ends of the garment shouldn't tear or become soiled, it is forbidden. If his intent is for the sake of fashion, since this is the style in which people of his locale wear their clothes, it is permitted. Again, this is a critical comment for all of these halachas. The style in which people of his locale wear their clothes. There's a woman in New York who she was tragically, sadly, she was privy to information around criminal activity of other people. It was white-collar crime, but she didn't want to incriminate the other people, and so she kept quiet, and she was actually imprisoned for it as a way of trying to get her to speak about others. She was a religious woman, and they wanted to force her to wear the prison uniform, which was pants and shirt. And she went to court over it to be allowed to wear a dress in court, and she won based on the universal sign of a bathroom, of a lady's bathroom, as a dress. In other words, it's accepted that is the common form. So that has many implications in halacha, that what's considered the normal form of clothing is what a person is allowed to wear. A person who goes out to the public domain with a garment that is folded and placed on his shoulders is liable. He may, however, go with a wrap folded around his shoulders, even though a thread is not tied to his fingers. In other words, he's not wearing it in any way, but a wrap is enough. Whenever a wrap doesn't cover a person's head and the majority of his body, he's forbidden to go out wearing it. A cloth that is worn as a head covering that's short and not wide should be tied below one's shoulders. Thus, it will serve as a belt and will permit it to go out wearing it as well. Chaf. What about a talus? It is permitted to wrap oneself in a talus that has unwoven strands at its edges, even though they are long and do not enhance the appearance of the talus. Why? Because they are considered to be subsidiary to it. The person wearing the talus does not care whether they exist or not. Based on the above, a person who goes out wearing a talus that tzitzis are not halachically acceptable is liable, for these strands are important to him, and he is concerned with completing what they are lacking, so that they are considered to be tzitzis. Whenever the tzitzis are halachically acceptable, it's permitted to go out wearing the garment during the day and during the night. Tzitzis that are halachically acceptable are not considered to be a burden, rather to be an article that enhances the garment and beautifies it. Were the strands of tzitzis that are halachically acceptable be considered a burden, one would be liable for wearing such a garment even on the Shabbos day, since a positive commandment whose negation is not possible by Kares does not supersede the Shabbos prohibitions. The reason why it says even by day is because by the chiyuv, the obligation to wear tzitzis, is only by day, even though today those who wear talis katan will wear it day and night. We don't take it off, so to speak, at sunset. Chaf Aleph, a tailor should not go out on Shabbos with a needle stuck in his clothes, nor a carpenter with a sliver of wood behind his ear, nor a weaver with wool in his hair, nor a carter of flax with a string around his neck, nor a money changer with a dinner in his ear, nor a dyer with a sample in his ear. If one of these individuals goes out wearing such an article, he is not liable. Although this is the usual practice for artisans of the craft, he is not liable because he is not considered to have transferred the article in an ordinary manner. Meaning it's considered a form of, it's not considered to be an article of clothing, but it's also not considered to be normal enough that that's how a tailor carries his needle behind his ear. A zav, somebody who's going through a physical discharge, who goes out with his receptacle that carries it, that catches a discharge, is liable. But this is the only way the receptacle is transferred. He's liable, though he has no need to take out the receptacle itself. He needs only to prevent his clothes from being soiled. For a person who performs labor is liable, even when there's no need for the actual labor to be performed. Malachshin and Shechla Gufa, you are still chayiv. I might say tefillin, but what should a man do when he finds tefillin in the public domain on Shabbos? Right? Obviously, we don't wear tefillin on Shabbos. You can't carry them. You can't wear them. But let's say you see tefillin there. They're going to be destroyed if you leave them in the street. Wear them in the ordinary fashion. Place the head tefillin on his head, arm tefillin on his arm. Enter a home and remove them there. Afterwards, he should go out, return, put on a second pair, return to the home, remove them, and continue this pattern until he brings in all the tefillin. If there were, however, many pairs of tefillin and there was not enough time to bring them in during the time by wearing them as garments, he should remain watching them until after nightfall and bring them in on Saturday night. In a time of oppressive decrees, one might fear to linger and watch them until evening because of the Gentiles. He should cover them where they are located, leave them, and proceed on his way. Should be afraid to wait until after nightfall because of thieves. He should take the entire group at once and carry them less than 4 cubits at a time. Or he should give them to a colleague standing within 4 cubits, who in turn will give them to another colleague until they reach the courtyard at the extremity of the city. Meaning, if you remember, the prohibition of carrying in the public domain is only more than 4 cubits. You got to carry within 4 cubits. Now, normally, the halacha is not that relevant because you can't take anything to shul, because how do you get it out of your home, number one, and how do you get it into the shul's property? If you're finding something in the public domain, then you can take it all the way in there. Now the question is, what do you do once you get to the courtyard? So in Shulchan Aruch Harav, he says, so you've carried it 3 miles distance, going 1.5 meters at a time. When you finally get to the first courtyard, you should, he says is you should take it away from the person who was carrying them, and not put it down. Someone else should put it down, not the one who picked it up 2 miles away. That's just the in terms of the practical, what to do with it once it gets there. Okay. When does the above apply? When they are found together with the straps that are tied with the knots with which tefillin are tied, since they are surely tefillin. If however the straps are not tied, one should not pay attention to them, meaning they're probably not kosher tefillin. A person who finds the Torah's call should linger and watch until after nightfall. Wait there. In a time of danger, he may leave it and go on his way. If rain is descending, one should wrap himself in the parchment, cover it with one's outer garments, and enter a home with it. Interesting. On Friday, shortly before nightfall, a tailor should not go carrying a needle in his hand, nor should a scribe go out carrying his pen, lest he forget and transfer it on Shabbos. person is obligated to check his clothes on Friday before nightfall, lest he forget something in them and inadvertently transfer it on the Shabbos. Finally, it is permissible to go out wearing tefillin on Friday shortly before sunset. Why? Since a person is obligated to touch his tefillin at all times, there's no possibility that he will forget them, right? You're not allowed to wear tefillin in a way that you're going to forget them. It's different to a smartwatch. If a person forgets and goes out to the public domain wearing tefillin, when he remembers that tefillin on his head, he should cover his head until he reaches his home or the house of study. The Rambam was, of course, referring to the common practice, which was to wear tefillin all day. And it could be very possible that a person would come into Shabbos without having taken it off. Any questions?
Rabbi, I have one question which only occurred to me as you were talking. I'm currently wearing a chain with a Mogen David on it. I've worn it constantly for the last 60 years, more than 60 years, in fact. Is that a problem? I wear it under my clothes, not on top.
So what it would boil down to, what the question will boil down to is it considered a tachshit, an acceptable accessory? And I would believe that it is. I believe that it is. It's a hard one because the question of men wearing jewelry, the Rambam addresses very clearly as prohibited. But the question is, does it change with time, and what would be considered? So I'm going to say that I'm going to play it safe again and say that for the final halachic opinion, consult with your rabbi. I would believe that there is leniency around something like that being considered.
Now, I've never thought about it before until you sort of raised the issue by implication. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions?
One thing, you're talking about carrying a key. If you had to stitch a key into, say, your inside of your tie, so that's part of the tie, fixed to the tie, that type of thing. Instead of being a part of your belt, as an option.
Yeah. So it's a complicated subject, and I would stand to be corrected by your halachic authority. I'm sorry, I'm making all these disclaimers. I do not believe a key in a tie plays no role. There's nothing. It's not considered a form of jewelry. It's not a normal way to wear a tie. It's attaching two things that have no connection to each other for no purpose other than to transfer in the public domain. The difference of the belt is that the key plays a role in the belt. It's what holds the belt together. Stitching a key to a tie is exactly that. You've stitched a key to a tie, but all the key is a key, and all the tie is a tie, and nothing's changed. I am feeling a little bit, Rabbi Popek, just tell us what.
I also remember hearing something years ago where they say if you do that every day of the week, like it's a normal thing to wear or use, like you say your necklace, you know what I mean, with your Magen David, then it's normally more acceptable than if it's only done for Shabbos for the case of carrying a key on it or whatever the case may be.
Now, granted, I've never seen anybody wearing a key as a part of their blazit. Okay? So it's not a tachshit, it's not a piece of jewelry. But it's lavush. It's a piece of metal holding a belt together. That's all. The fact that it serves another purpose for you is to your advantage.
I once asked the Beth Din now before during Corona whether you can wear a mask on Shabbos, and I asked him what would be the basis to wearing the mask besides the Koach Nefesh that you mentioned before. And he said that the Gemara says in Shabbos that you can wear the amulet. Amulet has if it's something that is said that is a protection, or something that is said that can be of benefit psychologically or whatever it is. If it's a proven amulet, which specifically the mask has those qualities, it's 100% permitted, and not because of pikuach nefesh, but because of the amulet aspect.
That's why. There you go. There you go.
And once again,
Okay.
about the key, the key needs to have has to have a reason for its existence wherever it is. So if you're wearing it on a belt, or you're wearing it as a part of a piece of jewelry that is that is there. If it's part of that, and it's not a sore thumb there, so it's okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Rabbi, thank you very much.
I have you. Have a good Shabbos, everybody.
Rabbi, thank you.
Shabbos,
Good
Jeff,
Shabbos. Shabbos, everyone.
Ken, David,
Good Shabbos,
Brian,
everybody.
Harry and Mark, Colin, Martin. Shabbos, Rabbi. All the
Good
best.